So with regards to safety, safety is paramount in any work that you're doing. For me personally, I tell my students never work on a circuit when it's live, right? In the sense of troubleshooting and making modifications and everything. With these devices, it's the same. Two live lines should not be connected to each other, otherwise it will be detrimental. This device, of course, has protection devices in place, in programming, in code, to ensure that if that event happens, all that voltage gets shunted to ground. May have some MOVs or different other devices that enable that, but it has power protection. On this side, of course, for instance, when my students will go through later, you see them go through the synchroscope, and this is the 6 o'clock point at which synchronization is completely out. And if it is, and they try to synchronize, you can't synchronize the generator when it's that far out of phase. That is the worst possible thing that can happen. But luckily, this won't allow it to turn and that happen, right? So even if they try to catch the synchronization right here, it will just clip to here and get the generator to synchronize where it needs to be. In the automatic synchronization, like in the inverter and automatic, which I don't think we'll go through today, it does all of that protection through programming and coding to ensure that at the end of the day, no fault occurs. We also actually have fault testing for those kind of issues. So if we're to switch around and swap out parts, if I was doing the solar generation and putting it on the transmission line, I would have a fault analysis over here that would really teach the students what to do in the event of fault. I also have generator faults, which can be experienced on all three devices, to ensure that we accommodate for safety, which is always the most important thing at the end of the day. You get me? Any one of these lines, any one of these cords that are pushing out how much voltage could probably touch the ground and we have problems. So always ensure that you work in a neat area, you work with maximum safety at all times, you never work on a circuit when it's live, especially troubleshooting.
The key thing about the solar plant is that the power is generated in DC, right? Because it is generated in DC, it affords us the flexibility of controlling the frequency that we want to set it back when we're converting back to AC. That in itself means that if it was a 60 Hz system like in America or other parts of the world, we'll be able to say, okay, I want my AC frequency to be 60. But the key thing is that with DC supplies, you have no power factor, right? Because the DC wave is essentially just a straight line. There is no frequency variation, only voltage and current variations, right? So because of that, on our output, we want the cleanest power factor possible, which is also dependent on the inverter right here. So the closer we can get it to 1 is the cleaner the power would be, especially with all plants that are operating, all renewable systems that are operating, they want the cleanest power possible, right? In Jamaica, yes, our power isn't as good as we would want it to be, but when we make the move more to renewables, we look into power factor correction, as some of my students will mention after this, with regards to how you will clean up a bad power factor, how you would essentially account for whether it's a leading or a lagging load, and so on and so forth. This is just the source. Yes, we haven't connected any battery supplies or any loads to it, as it wouldn't be necessary. We're just trying to achieve synchronization. And for the purposes of these devices, to explain to the students what it needs to accomplish, it does it well. Solar right now is more apparent and it's more omnipresent, I would say, because it's always here. We live in a tropical paradise. We always have sunlight. We have a certain amount of insolation for the hours for the day. We should be harnessing that and using that accordingly. So this, of course, representation is very crucial to the understanding of the future generations of how to keep going further from here, so to build more plants, get more of it out there. And the only thing I can say is I just hope more people go more renewable.